My therapist told me something this week that was so deep. And I was telling her part of the reason I'm doing this show, right, is to, I thought I'm doing it to help people when I realized I'm really doing it to help people like my father. And she was like, she looked at me like, what do you mean? And I'm like, because imagine if my father saw a show like this, went and got help and changed and became better, what our family would have been like. And she says to me, Paul, only God can change the person's heart, right? She says, I love what you're doing. And I think what you're doing could help a lot of people like you, victims. The mindset thinking that, and I don't know if it's control, like maybe I could go, get to my change, but I feel like a strong pull to the person that's the abuser and don't realize they're an abuser. And I'm not talking about physical abuse. I'm not talking about sexual abuse. And if that's the case, my prayer is that person could there could be some accountability and that person gets whatever help they need. But what I'm talking about people that don't realize they're an abuser, maybe that narcissist, that people have a family full of codependents around them who have no identity because they walk around a house on eggshells. And I'm like, man, if this show can help that person, right, then there will be less victims. And that's kind of like where I'm trying to go with it, right? Go with this show. I want to help that person. Maybe that person don't realize they're a narcissist, right? And when she was telling me like, Paul, I love what you're doing, and but God is the one that penetrates the heart. So that's my prayer, right? That God do penetrates the heart. And that's kind of where I really want to help in whatever way I can, help people come that have that moment that it clicks for them and be like, okay, I'm gonna do better. But then I have to be okay with that. They may never get better. But then the victims out there, the codependents, the people that have no identity because their identity is tied into making that person happy or keeping that person from being triggered or keeping that person from going down depression. And you're just a whole bunch of codependents just trying everything to keep this person stable and have no identity. And I'm good with helping you guys if that's you. I'm no longer trying to save the bad guy and turn them into a good guy. I realized in therapy that's I can't do that. And when my therapist told me that, it was hard to hear. I said yes, but I remember walking out feeling like, yeah, it would be nice, but only God could change their hearts. And I accept that. That is so true. I'm okay with the people that have suffered under the rule of a violent or narcissistic or evil person. And I'll use all those terms. Even if that person don't realize that's who they are, it's also denial because i- the people under them will show signs and they choose to live that life. I have to let go of my need to help that person because I cannot change their hearts. And that's hard. That's hard to digest. That's hard to unpack. That's hard to accept. Because if that one person have five victims under them, I'm like, man, if this show helps that person, that's five people in that household that can become better. And I have to let go of that need to do that and give it to God. But I can talk to those five people, those five codependents, those five victims. And I could say to you guys that I understand it's hard to be brave. It's hard to set boundaries. It's hard to go get help for yourself. But I implore you to do it. I implore you to go seek out counsel, seek out therapists, seek out somebody that can kind of guide you through it. You can shoot me some DMs and we could unpack it together. I'm not a therapist. I can't help you, but I could encourage. I'm an encourager. I think I'm a pretty good encourager. I know, yeah, I give myself credit for that. I am a good encourager. I like to encourage people. There's something about encouraging people that I think is part of my gift, my gifting. I recognize it. I accept it. My wife has told me that literally our whole marriage. Encouraging people through difficult times. They'll call me. And I don't even know if my advice is all of that, but I think when they leave the phone with me, they feel some sort of encouragement. Even if it's I'm praying for you. Like, you got this. That's something that I've been good at. I believe God is going to open up a new path for this show where that plea and that cry and that call for trying to help the people that choose to stay living as a narcissist or choose to stay living in the way that they're living, only God could change their hearts. And if you're listening to this, only God could change your heart. So this show, you might not like it. You might swipe away. You might delete it off your feed. What is this crazy old guy talking about? I get it. I release you into God's hands if that's you. And if God is working on your heart and you're finding areas in your life where you can do better, where you haven't been the best, where you're getting new information that you didn't have before, and God is working on your heart, I'm praying with you. I got you. Like, go speak to someone. Go get some help. Find someone to talk to, but more importantly, go see someone, a professional, a therapist, or someone in the field that can do an evaluation and tell them what your concerns are. And tell them you're finding new information online and you're recognizing in your home that you've created codependence and you use manipulation tactics. So those people in your household can't say or do certain things. So they're walking around as your little codependents. No identity, walking on eggshells. Do you know that they will take on guilt, especially if they're young? Yep. You may not be violent, but you may be creating codependence to keep you happy. And when you're not happy, they're internalizing it like they failed. That's what happens with codependence. You're, you're listening to one, right? People pleasing. And you will just go and go and go and go and please and please and people please. And then when that person has is have a bad day or your people pleasing didn't work, you feel like a failure. So you need to people please some more. So just be aware. Just be aware that that's what's happening, right? If you're not getting treated for it, that's not good, bro. You're gonna have to go get help and get treatment because it just doesn't affect you. I'm talking about people that need others to make them thrive. And the others that they need to make them thrive, the little codependents, they have no identity. Their identity is tied into that person's happiness, into that person's well being. And a lot of times it starts off as us parents. And then we raise codependencies that go off into the world and form new codependent relationships with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, a spouse, a teacher, a boss, a friend in the neighborhood, a friend at school. You just literally create a codependent that will go out and find those same relationships elsewhere. And you could reverse that. And those of you that realize that you are codependent and that you have formed those relationships and your identity is tied to someone else's happiness, whether it's a parent, whether it's a spouse, you're going to have to get some help because if you don't, you're going to end up becoming that yourself. And that's what happens with a lot of codependents. They grow into it. And if you come out of violence, you may not grow into it as a violent person, but you may grow into it in other ways but it's the same effect. The people in your household, when you have kids, they become codependents to you in other ways. And it's a cycle. Somebody has to break it. I've chose to be the breaker, and my wife has chose to be the breaker for our family, for maybe stuff that has been passed down from generations and generations and generations. We have the privilege of breaking it. And it's a wonderful privilege because we get to be the ones that change our generation change. And I love it. So, again, I hope this episode just gives you a different insight. I hope it opens up your mind a little bit. And I love that I was able to come on here and unpack and just admit and be honest to you in all humility. I'm humbled to recognize that I don't have control. I'm going after the fish, the whale, the people that are affecting other people, and I give it to God and I put it in His hands. Only God could change their hearts. But there are a lot of people that have suffered under those people. Just know that I see you, I welcome you. And I hope you will share this to somebody that this can be a blessing to. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching another episode of the Paul Larry Podcast. Be blessed.